Welcome to Unsolved Historical Mysteries. Nostradamus prophesies the hidden codes behind his eerie predictions. In the heart of 16th century France, where political turbulence, religious conflicts, and fear of the unknown loomed over the people, a figure emerged, whose name would resonate through history. Michel de Nostradamus, better known as Nostradamus. Born in 1503, Nostradamus was not just a prophet, but a man whose life embodied the crossroads of science, mysticism, and turbulent European history. Nostradamus was born in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, a picturesque town in southern France. His family had a Jewish background, though they converted to Catholicism, a necessary adaptation during a time when religious persecution was rife. Nostradamus grew up during the Renaissance, a period marked by an explosion of knowledge, curiosity, and a rethinking of humanity's place in the universe. This unique environment exposed him to the latest ideas in philosophy, science, and the arts. But perhaps what influenced him most were the astronomical and mystical texts he encountered from an early age. He was naturally inquisitive, an avid reader, and deeply interested in the mysteries of the stars. This curiosity led him to study the emerging fields of medicine and astrology. As a young man, he attended the University of Avignon, where he was introduced to classical texts on philosophy and the sciences. However, a plague outbreak forced the university to close, and young Michel left, continuing his studies on his own. He later enrolled at the University of Montpellier, one of the most respected medical schools in Europe, where he honed his skills as a physician. But Nostradamus' life was marked by tragedy. His first wife and two young children were taken by the plague, a devastating loss that reshaped his outlook on life. He threw himself into his work, treating plague victims across France with innovative, if controversial, methods, such as recommending hygiene and fresh air concepts that were revolutionary at the time. This experience not only deepened his empathy but seemed to stir within him an intense curiosity about fate, destiny, and the hidden patterns that governed the world. After years of healing the sick, Nostradamus found himself drawn to a different kind of calling. Around the 1540s, he turned his attention to the ancient art of astrology. But unlike his contemporaries, Nostradamus did not focus solely on creating horoscopes or personal predictions. Instead, he was fascinated by the grand, sweeping currents of time. He began to contemplate the fate of nations, the rise and fall of empires, and the course of humanity itself. In 1550, he published his first almanac, a collection of annual predictions, which became wildly popular. People were captivated by his writings, which were filled with mysterious and often cryptic phrases that seemed to hint at future events. Encouraged by this success, he began to write more almanacs, and, eventually, embarked on his most famous work, Les Prophecies, or the Prophecies. Les Prophecies was an ambitious project, a series of quatrains, or four-line verses, written in a blend of French, Greek, Latin, and Occitan. Each quatrain seemed to contain a riddle, a puzzle for the reader to unravel. Nostradamus claimed that these verses foretold events that would unfold far into the future, events that even today are thought to have predicted everything from the French Revolution to the rise of Napoleon and Hitler, and even the 9/11 attacks in New York City. But what set Nostradamus apart was not just the content of his prophecies, but the way he went about creating them. Unlike other astrologers, he blended a mix of historical analysis, biblical references, and his own mystical experiences. It's said that he spent hours alone at night, meditating before a bowl of water, through which he claimed to glimpse visions of the future. Some believe he entered a trance-like state, allowing him to transcend time and see events beyond his lifetime. Skeptics, of course, argue that his verses are so vague that they could be interpreted to fit almost any event, but believers counter that there are details in some of his quatrains that are too specific to be mere coincidence. Nostradamus' rise to fame was not without challenges. His cryptic predictions made him a target for the authorities and the church, both of whom were wary of anyone who claimed to possess knowledge beyond human comprehension. Yet, despite this, he garnered a substantial following, including Catherine de' Medici, the powerful Queen of France. Catherine was fascinated by his predictions, especially those concerning her own family and the future of the French monarchy. She invited him to her court, where he served as an advisor. It is even said that Nostradamus accurately predicted the untimely death of her son, King Henry II, who was fatally wounded in a jousting accident, just as Nostradamus had foreseen. The fact that someone of Nostradamus' background and standing was able to gain the favor of the royal family speaks volumes about the intrigue and respect he commanded. It was a rare feat in a time when the church and state held such a tight grip on intellectual discourse and public life. Nostradamus' work stood at the delicate intersection of astrology, mysticism, and medicine, defying the conventions of his time and challenging the rigid beliefs of the church. Though Nostradamus died in 1566, his influence only grew after his death. Les Prophecies became a phenomenon, continuously reprinted and translated into multiple languages. People began attributing every major event to his predictions, and his fame spread across Europe and beyond. During times of crisis or upheaval, his prophecies were revisited, with believers finding eerie parallels between his verses and real-world events. Wars, revolutions, natural disasters all seemed to be foretold in the enigmatic quatrains left by this 16th-century seer. Today, Nostradamus remains a controversial figure. Some see him as a charlatan, a clever writer whose ambiguous verses could be molded to fit any event. Others regard him as a true visionary, someone who saw through the veil of time and left behind a legacy that continues to mystify us centuries later. But no matter where one stands, there's no denying that Nostradamus tapped into something profound, a universal fascination with fate, destiny, and the hidden patterns that shape our world. In a way, Nostradamus' story reflects humanity's eternal quest for meaning and certainty. In an uncertain world, he was a man who dared to look beyond his time, to peer into the unknown, and share with us the visions he claimed to have seen. And whether those visions were real or imagined, they have left an indelible mark on our history and continue to captivate our imaginations to this day. Nostradamus' fascination with the stars and mystical sciences was more than mere curiosity. It was an essential part of his approach to understanding the world and predicting the future. In his time, the fields of astrology and alchemy were deeply respected, especially among those who sought hidden knowledge and desired to grasp the forces that shaped human destiny. For Nostradamus, these fields provided both a philosophical foundation and a toolkit for exploring the mysteries that lay beyond ordinary perception. Astrology, the study of celestial bodies and their influence on human affairs, was a well-established practice in the 16th century, especially among intellectuals. Unlike today's horoscope columns, astrology in Nostradamus' era was considered a complex science. It combined the study of astronomy, mathematics, and psychology. aiming to interpret the alignment of planets and stars to understand individual and collective destinies. This field intrigued Nostradamus, who saw the movements of heavenly bodies as clues to the unfolding of earthly events. Nostradamus believed that the cosmos operated in harmony with human life, that there were grand cycles and patterns dictated by the celestial sphere. To him, everything on earth had a counterpart in the heavens, a philosophy that echoed the ancient Hermetic principle, as above, so below. This idea suggested that the universe was connected in ways that went far beyond mere physical phenomena. To predict future events, Nostradamus would analyze the positions of planets at specific times, often using complex astrological charts to uncover patterns and trends that he felt pointed to future outcomes. Nostradamus wasn't alone in his belief that astrology could reveal hidden truths. During his time, it was common for monarchs, generals, and even the Catholic Church to consult astrologers before making crucial decisions. Astrology wasn't viewed as mere superstition, rather, it was a respected part of strategic planning, believed to offer a glimpse into the underlying forces that governed both individual and collective fates. Besides astrology, Nostradamus was also deeply engaged with alchemy, a field that sought to unlock the secrets of matter and life itself. Alchemy was the precursor to modern chemistry, but it was far more than that. It was a spiritual practice. Alchemists believed that through the transformation of base metals into gold, they could gain insight into the very essence of existence. The pursuit of the philosopher's stone, an object capable of turning any metal into gold and granting eternal life, was both a physical and metaphysical quest. Alchemists sought not only material wealth but also spiritual enlightenment, hoping to achieve a state of purity and connection with the divine. For Nostradamus, alchemy was not just about the physical transformation of elements. It was a pathway to understanding the mysteries of life and death. Alchemists believed that everything in the universe was interconnected, and by studying the properties of substances, one could gain insight into the nature of the soul. Some historians argue that Nostradamus used alchemical principles to enter altered states of consciousness, possibly allowing him to access visions of the future. Whether through meditation, alchemical preparations, or simply his own intense concentration, Nostradamus reportedly experienced vivid glimpses of what he interpreted as future events. It is said that Nostradamus practiced his mystical arts late at night, retreating to a small study where he would meditate with a bowl of water and a candle. This act of gazing into water, called scrying, was a method he used to induce visions. By focusing on the water's surface, he may have entered a trance-like state, allowing his mind to wander beyond the present and access what he believed to be distant, prophetic visions. This meditative practice was common among alchemists and mystics, who viewed it as a way to connect with the divine and bypass the limitations of ordinary perception. Nostradamus' blending of astrology, alchemy, and scrying created a unique approach to prophecy. His training in medicine and sciences gave him a practical understanding of the human condition, while his mystical practices allowed him to explore what lay beyond human comprehension. It's this combination that makes his predictions so compelling. They are not only reflections of the fears and hopes of his time, but also reveal a man deeply engaged in both the spiritual and the scientific. In his work, Les Prophecies, we see this synthesis of science and mysticism come to life. The verses are written in cryptic language, filled with symbolic imagery and references that draw heavily on astrology and alchemy. To many, this makes his predictions both intriguing and baffling. Each quatrain is a puzzle, one that invites interpretation and reinterpretation. As new events unfold and seem to align with his writings, even today, scholars and enthusiasts attempt to decode his verses, believing that Nostradamus embedded hidden messages in his work that can only be understood by those familiar with the mystical arts. This blend of astrology and alchemy has led some to speculate that Nostradamus wasn't just predicting the future, but actively influencing it through his work, a concept known as self-fulfilling prophecy. By sharing his visions, he may have set in motion events that would align with his prophecies, creating a cycle of belief and manifestation that continues to capture imaginations. Nostradamus' life and work remind us of a time when science and spirituality were deeply intertwined, when the mysteries of the universe were explored through both rational thought and mystical practice. For him, the study of stars, planets, and the elements was not separate from the quest for meaning. Instead, it was a unified path toward understanding the hidden forces that govern life itself. Whether or not we believe in his prophecies, Nostradamus' dedication to his craft and his relentless pursuit of knowledge stand as a testament to humanity's enduring quest to comprehend the mysteries of existence. Nostradamus' legacy as a prophet began to take shape with the publication of his most famous work, Les Prophecies, commonly known as the Prophecies or Centuries. Published in 1555, the Prophecies was a groundbreaking collection of 942 quatrains, 4-line verse each one, offering cryptic, often mysterious predictions that Nostradamus claimed could foretell the future of the world. But why did this book captivate the public so profoundly? And why does it continue to stir interest centuries later? At first glance, Les Prophecies reads like an enigmatic puzzle. Each quatrain was written in a blend of French, Latin, Greek, and even Occitan, a language spoken in southern France. This mix of languages added an air of mystery and allowed Nostradamus to obscure the meanings of his predictions. For readers in the 16th century, his verses were tantalizing riddles, full of cryptic images and references that seemed to promise hidden truths about the future. Nostradamus used an ambiguous, poetic style on purpose, shrouding his predictions in mystery. He could avoid potential accusations of heresy from the Catholic Church, or backlash from political figures who might see themselves reflected in his verses. But what were these quatrains actually predicting? Some of his readers claimed to see events as monumental as wars, the rise and fall of empires, natural disasters, and even the end of the world itself. The centuries were divided into 10 groups of 100 quatrains each. Though the last set only contained 42, each section seemed to cover a different aspect of future history, and each quatrain appeared to offer insights into specific events or figures. Nostradamus claimed that his prophecies extended for thousands of years, hinting at a grand, unfolding narrative of humanity that stretched far beyond his own lifetime. The immediate impact of Les Prophecies on European society was remarkable. The 16th century was a time of deep religious and political strife. The Protestant Reformation was reshaping Europe. The Catholic Church was fighting to maintain its authority, and wars and plagues were ravaging the continent. People longed for certainty and guidance, a sense of what was to come. In Nostradamus' writings, many found both fear and comfort. His verses offered readers an escape from their everyday worries, while also giving them a sense of hope that someone, somewhere, had glimpsed the divine plan. One of the reasons for Les Prophecies' success was Nostradamus' growing reputation as a prophet. By the time of its publication, He was already well known due to his popular almanacs, which included yearly predictions and astrological advice. These almanacs had been published annually and were wildly popular. Readers saw Nostradamus as an authority on astrological matters, someone who understood the complex relationship between the heavens and the human world. His reputation as an astrologer and seer made Les Prophecies an instant hit, and people were eager to get their hands on his newest and most ambitious work. Another factor that contributed to the book's popularity was the endorsement of powerful figures, particularly Catherine de' Medici, the Queen of France. Catherine, fascinated by Nostradamus' predictions about her family, became one of his greatest supporters. She invited him to her court, where he served as a royal advisor. His connection with the French monarchy lent him an air of legitimacy and made him something of a celebrity. Catherine's support helped Les Prophecies gain widespread attention, as the endorsement of a royal figure was, in those days, a powerful statement. It suggested that his predictions were not only valid, but were also worth heeding. The publication of Les Prophecies didn't just make Nostradamus famous, it also sparked a wave of fascination with prophecy in general. In the years following its release, other writers and astrologers began publishing their own books of predictions, inspired by Nostradamus' work. Some tried to mimic his style, while others attempted to interpret his verses, hoping to unlock the mysteries hidden within. This new trend in prophetic literature turned Les Prophecies into more than just a book. It became a cultural phenomenon. People began looking to prophecy as a way to make sense of the world's uncertainties, and Nostradamus became the most celebrated prophet of his time. As the centuries passed, Les Prophecies continued to capture imaginations. During times of crisis, people would return to Nostradamus' verses, searching for hints or warnings that might explain or predict current events. Wars, revolutions, natural disasters all were thought to have been foreseen by Nostradamus. This tradition continued into modern times, with readers today still analyzing his work for clues about the future. His writings have been attributed to everything from the rise of Napoleon and the world wars to the 9/11 attacks and even the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet, the impact of Les Prophecies goes beyond Nostradamus' predictions. His work also contributed to the broader Renaissance interest in mysticism, the occult, and the search for hidden knowledge. Nostradamus' combination of astrology, cryptic language, and historical references reflected a world that was beginning to challenge established religious doctrines and explore the nature of time, destiny, and human agency. His legacy helped shape the public's fascination with the unknown, sparking a long-standing curiosity about the boundaries of knowledge and the possibility of seeing beyond the present. Today, Nostradamus' work remains a subject of debate, fascination, and study. His prophecies, though often dismissed by skeptics as vague or coincidental, have maintained their allure. People continue to pore over his verses, translating, analyzing, and interpreting his words in an effort to connect them to current events. Nostradamus' centuries has inspired countless books, documentaries, and films, each one exploring the enigma of his predictions. And while some argue that his work is nothing more than poetic ambiguity, others are convinced that Nostradamus possessed a rare gift, a glimpse into the secrets of time itself. In publishing Les Prophecies, Nostradamus did more than release a book. He created a mystery that has endured for over 450 years. Whether or not his predictions are accurate, one thing is certain: the Prophecies has left an indelible mark on history, challenging us to question the limits of human understanding and inviting us to explore the mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp. In Les Prophecies, Nostradamus' enigmatic verses have long been thought to foretell monumental historical shifts. Among these is one of the most dramatic events in European history, the French Revolution. This period of radical change and upheaval from 1789 to 1799 overthrew the French monarchy, reshaped society, and ushered in a new era. Nostradamus' quatrains seem to eerily predict this unprecedented turmoil, leading many to believe that he had somehow foreseen the chaos that would engulf his homeland. Over 200 years after his death, one of Nostradamus' quatrains, often cited in connection with the French Revolution, reads, "From the enslaved populace, songs, chants, and demands, while princes and lords are held captive in prisons, these will in the future by headless idiots be received as divine prayers." To those who study Nostradamus, this quatrain appears to capture the essence of the revolution's events. The phrase enslaved populace seems to refer to the common people of France, many of whom suffered under oppressive taxes and harsh economic conditions. As frustrations grew, the lower classes began to voice their grievances, demanding reforms and, eventually, complete social and political change. This led to the fall of the monarchy, symbolized by the imprisonment of King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette. The phrase "princes and lords held captive in prisons" has been interpreted as describing the arrest and confinement of the royal family and nobility, a direct result of the people's demands for justice. What is perhaps most chilling about this quatrain is the line, "By headless idiots be received as divine prayers." During the revolution's most violent phase, the Reign of Terror, thousands were executed by guillotine. This line seems to foreshadow the fate of many nobles and even the king himself, who were beheaded in the name of liberty and equality. To many of Nostradamus' followers, these verses are an unmistakable reference to the turbulent events of the revolution and the widespread use of the guillotine, a symbol of revolutionary justice. Then there is the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, a military general who would ultimately seize control of France and declare himself emperor, reshaping Europe through a series of wars and reforms. Nostradamus wrote another quatrain that is often thought to allude to Napoleon's rise. "An emperor shall be born near Italy, who shall cost the empire dear. They shall say, with what people he keeps company. He will be found less a prince than a butcher." Napoleon was born in Corsica, an island just off the Italian coast, and would indeed go on to cost the empire dear. Though he brought France great power and expanded its influence, his military campaigns were devastating, resulting in countless casualties and financial strain. The line "less a prince than a butcher" captures the duality of Napoleon's legacy. While he was revered as a leader, he was also responsible for the deaths of thousands through his relentless pursuit of power. Nostradamus' verses here not only echo the spirit of Napoleon's life, but also capture the sense of a complex, ambitious figure who straddled the line between hero and tyrant. Napoleon's ambitions reshaped Europe, but his fall left France in disarray. By linking Napoleon's birth near Italy and describing him as an emperor who would cost the empire, Nostradamus' prediction resonates as one of his most eerily accurate prophecies. To this day, these quatrains continue to fascinate historians, scholars, and enthusiasts. Some argue that Nostradamus' writings are too vague, while others are convinced of his prophetic vision. Whether coincidence or foresight, his verses on the French Revolution and Napoleon Bonaparte remain a testament to Nostradamus' enduring mystique. His prophecies capture not only the events themselves, but also the sense of destiny and turmoil that accompanied these seismic shifts in history. Nostradamus' Les Prophecies contains several quatrains that many believe predicted one of the most devastating events of the 20th century, World War II. This global conflict, fueled by ideological clashes, national ambitions, and unprecedented violence, left an indelible mark on human history. But among the most intriguing and chilling aspects of Nostradamus' verses is the way they appear to describe Adolf Hitler, one of the central figures in the rise of Nazi Germany and the chaos that followed. One quatrain often cited in connection with Hitler reads, "From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the East." To Nostradamus followers, this verse seems to depict Adolf Hitler's rise to power. Born in Austria, Hitler did indeed emerge from the west of Europe. His early life was marked by hardship, and he grew up in a relatively modest household. But what is most striking is the line about his power to seduce a great troop. Hitler's oratory skills and his ability to captivate the masses were instrumental in his rise within the Nazi Party and his eventual takeover of Germany. His rhetoric and propaganda inspired both fear and loyalty, rallying vast numbers to his cause. The final line, "His fame will increase towards the realm of the East," appears to point towards the expansionist goals that led to the invasion of Eastern Europe, culminating in one of the largest and deadliest conflicts in history. In another quatrain, Nostradamus seems to go even further, referencing a name that closely resembles Hitler. "Beasts ferocious from hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hitler. Into a cage of iron will the Great One be drawn. When the child of Germany observes nothing." The word Hitler is a point of debate. Some scholars argue that it refers to the ancient name of the Danube River, but to many, it sounds eerily close to Hitler. In this interpretation, the verse takes on a foreboding tone. The beasts ferocious from hunger might represent the aggressive Nazi forces crossing into neighboring countries, sparking the widespread violence of World War II. The phrase "the greater part of the battlefield will be against Hitler" seems to align with the eventual formation of the Allied powers, who united to defeat Nazi Germany. The line "into a cage of iron will the Great One be drawn" has also led to speculation. Some interpret it as an allusion to Hitler's eventual downfall and the devastation that overtook Germany as the Allies advanced. While Hitler himself never faced imprisonment, his power was crushed, and Germany fell into ruins. The image of the child of Germany who observes nothing could be seen as representing Hitler's inability to grasp the consequences of his actions, which led his country into ruin. What makes these verses so fascinating is their uncanny alignment with key elements of Hitler's life and the events of World War II. Nostradamus' use of evocative language and the seeming specificity of terms like Hitler has fueled decades of analysis and debate, while skeptics argue that these connections are merely coincidental or based on loose interpretations. Others believe Nostradamus had a unique ability to capture the essence of future tragedies. Additionally, there are quatrains that appear to reference the horrors of aerial warfare, something unknown in Nostradamus' time. In one quatrain, he writes, "The sky will burn at 45 degrees. Fire approaches the great new city. Immediately a huge, scattered flame leaps up. When they want to have verification from the Normans," though often linked to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Some interpreters suggest this quatrain could also refer to the bombing campaigns in Europe, including London and Dresden. where cities were engulfed in flames due to air raids. The terrifying imagery of a sky burning at a specific latitude, combined with a scattered flame, evokes images of large-scale destruction from the skies. Something that became all too familiar during World War II. To this day, Nostradamus' verses about World War II and Hitler remain some of his most debated and studied predictions. Are they genuine glimpses into the future, or are we merely seeing patterns that fit into events with hindsight? Whether coincidence or true prophecy, these quatrains offer a haunting reflection on one of history's darkest eras. Nostradamus' words, ambiguous as they may be, continue to provoke thought, reminding us of humanity's ongoing fascination with the possibility of foreseeing and perhaps even preventing our greatest tragedies. The tragic events of September 11, 2001, marked one of the darkest days in modern history. In the aftermath, people searched for meaning and understanding, leading some to believe that Nostradamus had foreseen this terrible event centuries earlier. His quatrains, already famous for their cryptic and foreboding language, were revisited, with many convinced that one in particular seemed to predict the devastation in New York. One of the quatrains most often cited reads as follows: "In the year of the new century and 9 months, from the sky will come a great king of terror. The sky will burn at 45 degrees. Fire approaches the great new city." To Nostradamus enthusiasts, this quatrain feels eerily prescient. The phrase "new century and 9 months" has been interpreted as a reference to the year 2001, just after the turn of the millennium. The image of a great king of terror descending from the sky seemed to many to match the devastating sight of planes crashing into the World Trade Center towers. For those who lived through the attacks, the sky burning resonates with the images of fire and smoke billowing from the towers. The line at 45 degrees is often debated. Some interpret it as the latitude of New York, which lies close to the 45-degree mark. Others suggest that the number is symbolic, meant to capture the scale of the tragedy rather than an exact location. The final line, "Fire approaches the great new city," has been widely taken as a description of New York itself, often called the new city, suggesting that Nostradamus may have foreseen a modern metropolis engulfed in flames. Another quatrain thought to be linked to 911 reads, "Two steel birds will fall from the sky on the metropolis. The sky will burn, the night to the day. Even death will spread in the great new city." While not a direct quote from Les Prophecies, this verse has circulated widely, leading many to believe that it was Nostradamus' warning of the 911 attacks. The phrase "two steel birds striking a metropolis" is a hauntingly close description of the events, where two planes, steel birds, struck the Twin Towers in New York City. Although this particular quatrain is likely a modern reinterpretation or even a fabricated quote, it reflects the impact of Nostradamus' reputation and the public's desire to find meaning in his writings during times of tragedy. Skeptics argue that these verses are vague enough to fit many different scenarios, and that some quotes attributed to Nostradamus regarding 911 are not found in his original texts. They believe these interpretations are a case of people applying Nostradamus' words to events in hindsight. Yet, believers see these verses as another instance of his prophetic ability, where his words capture both the specific and symbolic elements of a future catastrophe. Whether coincidental or truly prophetic, Nostradamus' supposed references to 911 serve as a reminder of humanity's ongoing quest to find patterns, meaning, and perhaps even warnings in the mysteries of the past. His quatrains, whether accurately translated or newly interpreted, continue to fascinate and unsettle us, bridging the past and present in unexpected, and sometimes chilling, ways. Nostradamus quatrains are fascinating not only because of their ominous predictions, but also due to the mysterious way they were crafted. Written in an archaic blend of French, Latin, Greek, and even Occitan, the verses feel like they are hiding something. To many, this cryptic style suggests that there are hidden meanings embedded within each line, designed to reveal insights to only those willing to decode them. Nostradamus chose to write his prophecies as quatrains, or 4-line poems, a choice that adds a layer of mystery and complexity. Each verse is brief and dense, filled with symbolism, and often contains historical and biblical references. This poetic form gave Nostradamus a way to speak about future events, without being explicit, allowing room for interpretation. But why would he choose such an obscure style, rather than writing clearly? Many scholars believe that Nostradamus used ambiguity deliberately, as a form of self-protection. In a time when heresy was punishable by death, Nostradamus could veil his controversial predictions in vague language, making it difficult for the church or authorities to accuse him of challenging their power. To add further layers, Nostradamus employed a mix of languages and dialects. His quatrains are peppered with phrases in Latin, Greek, and sometimes Hebrew, languages associated with ancient wisdom and religious texts. This blending of languages made his verses accessible only to those who could understand multiple tongues, adding an element of exclusivity to his work. Readers would need to not only interpret his symbolism, but also understand his linguistic choices. This multilingual style gave his prophecies a timeless quality, allowing them to be read and reread by generations across different languages and cultures. In addition to language, Nostradamus often used astrology as a reference point in his work. Many quatrains mention celestial events, planetary alignments, and zodiac signs, giving the sense that his prophecies were connected to the movements of the cosmos. For Nostradamus, astrology wasn't just a tool for prediction, it was a language in itself, one that connected human fate with the stars. His use of astrological symbols and terminology adds yet another layer of complexity, requiring readers to have knowledge of both astrology and mythology to fully appreciate his writings. Some believe that Nostradamus hid secret codes within his quatrains, codes that only a select few would be able to decipher. This theory suggests that Nostradamus' prophecies contain an inner meaning, or encrypted messages that reveal additional insights when decoded correctly. Scholars have tried to uncover these hidden messages by analyzing the quatrains in various ways. Some have used numerical patterns, while others have applied cryptographic techniques. Although definitive codes have not been found, the very idea of hidden meanings continues to capture the imagination of those who study his work. For those who see Nostradamus as a true prophet, the obscurity of his verses is not a flaw but a necessary veil. They argue that he concealed his insights to protect both himself and his readers from the dangers of knowing the future too clearly. To them, Nostradamus was not just a predictor of events, but a mystic who tapped into deeper truths that were too powerful to reveal openly. By shrouding his visions in symbolic language, he allowed his predictions to endure, leaving behind a legacy that is both timeless and endlessly intriguing. In the end, Nostradamus' style invites each reader to become a part of the mystery. His quatrains are like riddles, challenging us to seek meaning in their complexity, and to ponder the forces that shape human destiny. Through his cryptic verses, Nostradamus reminds us that the future is not always meant to be seen clearly, and that some truths are best left partially hidden, awaiting those who dare to seek them. For centuries, scholars and enthusiasts have been captivated by the possibility that Nostradamus embedded secret codes within his prophecies, codes that may hold deeper meanings or clues about the future. His cryptic verses, filled with historical, biblical, and astrological references, seem to invite readers to look beyond the surface and discover hidden messages. One of the main methods people have used to decode Nostradamus' work is the study of numerical patterns. Nostradamus was known to be influenced by Kabbalah, an ancient Jewish mystical tradition that assigns numerical values to letters and words. Through Kabbalistic techniques, some researchers attempt to find meaning in the numbers within his quatrains, believing that specific numbers correspond to certain events or people. For example, certain numbers are thought to represent years, planetary alignments, or significant astrological dates. This approach, while intriguing, remains controversial, as many of the codes derived from this method are open to interpretation and often fit various events. Another method that some have applied is anagramming, rearranging letters within Nostradamus' quatrains to reveal hidden words or names. Nostradamus was known to use anagrams in his writing, and many believe he did so intentionally to disguise certain details. By rearranging letters in his verses, enthusiasts have claimed to find names such as Hitler or Napoleon, suggesting that Nostradamus may have encoded specific references to future figures. However, critics argue that anagramming can yield numerous interpretations, making it difficult to determine whether these findings are truly intentional or the result of confirmation bias. Some researchers have gone even further, applying modern cryptographic techniques to Nostradamus' work, using methods such as frequency analysis, an approach used to break codes by analyzing the frequency of certain letters or words. They hope to uncover patterns in his verses. By analyzing repetitions, omissions, and linguistic oddities, they aim to find evidence of deliberate encryption. While these techniques are fascinating and align with modern cryptography, no concrete evidence of hidden codes has been uncovered to date. Astrology also plays a significant role in decoding Nostradamus' quatrains. Many of his predictions reference astrological symbols, planetary movements, and specific zodiac signs, and his followers believe that understanding these references is key to unlocking his prophecies. For instance, Nostradamus might mention a specific constellation, which, when combined with a historical date or person, is thought to create a meaningful prediction. Astrologers studying Nostradamus' work attempt to align his descriptions with actual celestial events, hoping to pinpoint the timing and nature of the events he foresaw. Despite the lack of definitive proof, the search for hidden codes in Nostradamus' work continues. Each attempt to decode his quatrains not only speaks to the allure of his writing, but also highlights humanity's enduring curiosity about the future and our desire to find patterns in the unknown. Nostradamus' prophecies invite us into a timeless puzzle, one that challenges us to explore the boundaries between fate, foresight, and the limits of human understanding. Nostradamus' prophecies are famous for their ambiguity, and many have questioned why he deliberately obscured his visions of the future. Was it simply a stylistic choice, or was there a deeper purpose behind his decision to make his predictions so cryptic? Several theories suggest that Nostradamus intentionally masked the future to protect both himself and his readers from the potentially dangerous knowledge of events yet to come. One possible reason for Nostradamus' vagueness was self-preservation. In the 16th century, Europe was rife with political and religious tensions, and predictions that could be seen as critical of the monarchy or the Catholic Church were dangerous. By cloaking his words in symbolism and metaphor, Nostradamus could avoid persecution. He used language that was open to interpretation, which provided him a safeguard against accusations of heresy or political subversion. His obscure style allowed him to share his visions without explicitly challenging the powerful institutions of his time. Another reason Nostradamus may have chosen to obscure his prophecies is linked to his understanding of fate and free will. Some scholars believe that Nostradamus wanted his readers to interpret his predictions as warnings, rather than as fixed outcomes. By leaving his verses open-ended, he may have hoped to encourage people to change their actions, thereby altering the future. If his predictions were too explicit, they might have caused fear or resignation, leading people to accept negative outcomes as inevitable, rather than working to prevent them. Additionally, there is a theory that Nostradamus intended his quatrains to be timeless. By avoiding specific names, dates, or details, he ensured that his work could be interpreted by future generations facing different challenges. His cryptic language allows each new era to find meaning in his prophecies, keeping his legacy alive across centuries. This approach suggests that Nostradamus may have understood the nature of prophecy as something that evolves over time, reflecting the changing circumstances and concerns of those who interpret it. Some also believe that Nostradamus' cryptic style reflects a sense of humility and reverence toward the mysteries of the future. Predicting the future was a serious and, in many ways, sacred endeavor. By presenting his visions as riddles, he may have felt he was showing respect for the unknown and acknowledging the limitations of human understanding. In his view, the future was not meant to be known in absolute terms, but rather glimpsed through a veil, a reminder that some aspects of destiny must remain beyond human control. In the end, Nostradamus' decision to obscure his predictions has only added to their allure. His quatrains invite readers to become interpreters, encouraging us to seek meaning in his words and contemplate our own role in shaping the future. His prophecies are as much about mystery as they are about fate, challenging us to find insight in the unknown and to consider the consequences of foreknowledge. By leaving his visions open to interpretation, Nostradamus ensured that his work would endure, continuing to captivate and intrigue people centuries after his time. Nostradamus' prophecies contain numerous references to a cataclysmic future, a vision of humanity's fate that continues to haunt and intrigue readers today. Scattered throughout Les Prophecies, he alludes to wars, natural disasters, and even cosmic events that suggest an apocalyptic end to human civilization. But did he truly foresee a definitive end to the world? Or was he warning us of recurring cycles of destruction and renewal? One of the most famous quatrains often cited in relation to the end times reads, "The year 1999, 7th month, from the sky will come a great king of terror, to bring back to life the great king of the Mongols. Before and after, Mars reigns happily." For many, this quatrain seemed to foretell the dawn of the new millennium. With an ominous prediction, the reference to the King of Terror descending from the sky led some to fear a great disaster, possibly even an asteroid impact or nuclear catastrophe. Others interpreted the mention of Mars, the Roman god of war, as a sign of violent conflict that would lead to widespread devastation. While no single event in 1999 matched the terror described in Nostradamus' verse, some see it as a warning that we are nearing the end of a historical cycle. one that will culminate in significant global upheaval. Nostradamus often used symbolism associated with nature to describe his apocalyptic visions. He wrote of earthquakes, floods, and fires that would consume cities and lands. In one quatrain, he describes earth shaking in 3 regions, a possible reference to widespread natural disasters. This could be a literal prediction of earthquakes or volcanic eruptions, or it might symbolize societal upheavals that would lead to the collapse of nations. Nostradamus' imagery of natural calamities suggests that he saw the forces of nature as instruments of destiny, capable of resetting the course of human history. Another aspect of Nostradamus' end times prophecies is his frequent mention of celestial events. He often referenced eclipses, planetary alignments, and other astronomical phenomena, indicating that he saw the heavens as intertwined with earthly fate. For Nostradamus, the stars and planets were more than distant objects. They were signs, messengers that could forewarn humanity of approaching doom. This belief reflects the astrological tradition that sees the cosmos as a mirror of human affairs, with celestial movements heralding significant events on Earth. But were these end times prophecies meant to be literal, or were they symbolic warnings? Some scholars believe that Nostradamus was speaking in allegories, using the imagery of destruction as a metaphor for profound societal and spiritual transformations. In this interpretation, his prophecies are not necessarily about the end of the world, but the end of an era, a rebirth where humanity would face challenges that force us to redefine ourselves and our values. In contemplating Nostradamus' vision of the end, we are reminded of our own fears and hopes for the future. His words encourage us to consider the consequences of our actions and the fragility of human civilization. Nostradamus' prophecies, whether interpreted as warnings or metaphors, continue to resonate as we navigate an uncertain world, inviting us to reflect on the choices that shape our collective destiny. Nostradamus' seemingly accurate predictions of future events have captivated readers for centuries. How could a man from the 16th century, with no access to modern science or global information, make prophecies that appear to align with real events? Did he possess a unique gift, or was there a method behind his predictions that helped him glimpse into the future? One theory is that Nostradamus drew upon his deep understanding of historical patterns and human behavior. By observing the cycles of history, the rise and fall of empires, the patterns of wars and peace, and the shifts in political power, Nostradamus may have been able to make educated guesses about future events. This approach is known as historical determinism, where events are thought to unfold in predictable patterns. Nostradamus' extensive study of ancient history and philosophy could have given him insight into these cycles, allowing him to anticipate similar events in the future. Another theory is that Nostradamus used astrology not just to predict personal fates, but to foresee world events. He believed that the positions of the stars and planets influenced not only individuals but entire nations. For Nostradamus, celestial alignments were not just symbolic, they were active forces in shaping human affairs. By creating complex astrological charts, he might have detected patterns in the heavens that he associated with certain outcomes. For example, he often wrote about the influence of Mars, the god of war, linking its position to conflicts on Earth. This astrological perspective may have helped him foresee the conditions that could lead to wars, revolutions, or disasters. Some believe that Nostradamus may have had access to mystical or supernatural sources. In his writings, he often described entering a trance-like state or meditative visions. sometimes scrying with a bowl of water by candlelight. It was in these altered states that he claimed to experience vivid images of future events. While skeptics view these descriptions as symbolic, believers argue that Nostradamus may have tapped into a form of intuition or clairvoyance that transcended ordinary human perception. If true, this would suggest that his visions were not merely educated guesses, but genuine glimpses into future possibilities. Lastly, there is the theory that Nostradamus' quatrains are so broad and symbolic that they allow readers to apply them to almost any event. His ambiguous language and layered symbolism invite interpretation, making it easy to find connections between his words and historical events. This theory, known as retrofitting, suggests that people are naturally inclined to see patterns in Nostradamus' writings that fit with events only in hindsight. While this may explain some of his more general predictions, his descriptions of specific names, locations, or events make it harder to dismiss all of his prophecies as coincidence. Ultimately, whether Nostradamus had a unique method, a mystical insight, or simply a remarkable understanding of human nature, his prophecies continue to spark debate. His ability to capture the fears, hopes, and cycles of humanity in his verses has allowed his work to transcend centuries, inviting each generation to find new meaning in his words. Whether seen as a prophet, a scholar, or simply a man with a keen sense of history, Nostradamus' legacy endures, challenging us to question what we know about fate, destiny, and our own capacity to glimpse the future. After centuries of fascination, Nostradamus' prophecies still raise one fundamental question. Were his predictions truly glimpses into the future, or are they simply examples of clever language and broad interpretations? Scholars, skeptics, and believers alike have debated the accuracy and intent behind Nostradamus' quatrains, leading to a fascinating examination of what it means to predict the future. Supporters argue that Nostradamus' predictions are too specific to be mere coincidence. They point to verses that seem to directly reference historical figures, like Napoleon or Hitler, events such as the French Revolution, or even recent events like 9/11. For these readers, the accuracy of such prophecies suggests that Nostradamus was a true visionary, able to tap into a source of knowledge beyond ordinary perception. Some believe he had a mystical or divine gift, while others think his insights came from an unparalleled understanding of human history, psychology, and the cycles of conflict. Critics, however, take a different view. They argue that Nostradamus' prophecies are intentionally vague, crafted in a way that allows almost any interpretation. His use of symbolic language, broad themes, and universal archetypes makes it easy to fit his verses to many different events, especially when viewed in hindsight. This phenomenon, known as retrofitting, involves interpreting ambiguous statements in a way that aligns with known outcomes, giving the illusion of accuracy. To skeptics, Nostradamus was a skilled poet and philosopher, but not a prophet. Another argument against the authenticity of Nostradamus' prophecies lies in the fact that many supposed predictions are often misquoted, mistranslated, or even fabricated. Some verses circulating on the internet today are not actually found in his original writings, but are modern creations inspired by his style. This complicates the task of determining which of Nostradamus' quatrains were genuine, and which have been altered or reinterpreted to fit current events. Regardless of the debate over his predictions' authenticity, there's no denying that Nostradamus' work has had a profound cultural impact. His verses reflect humanity's timeless desire to understand and perhaps control the future. Through his cryptic language and evocative images, he tapped into universal fears and hopes, capturing the imagination of generations. Even if his prophecies were simply the product of a brilliant mind and a deep understanding of human nature, Nostradamus has inspired us to ponder the mysteries of time, destiny, and our own potential to shape history. Whether we believe in his prophetic abilities or not, Nostradamus' legacy endures. His work reminds us of our quest to find meaning in an uncertain world, and his quatrains continue to inspire curiosity, debate, and fascination. Nostradamus remains a figure who challenges us to consider the possibilities of the unknown, and to reflect on our own place within the vast cycles of history. Nostradamus' prophecies have captivated readers for generations, but they ultimately lead us to a central question: should we believe in his predictions? His cryptic language, symbolic imagery, and timeless themes seem to offer glimpses into future events, allowing believers to see connections between his verses and real-world occurrences. But are these connections genuine, or are they simply the result of our tendency to find meaning in the unknown? Believers argue that Nostradamus possessed a profound understanding of human nature, history, and the cycles that shape our world. By studying astrology, history, and philosophy, Nostradamus may have been able to observe patterns and predict similar events in the future. To those who support his prophetic abilities, his writings offer valuable insights and cautionary tales. They view his verses as a form of guidance, a warning from someone who, in their view, transcended the limits of ordinary perception, to provide insights meant to protect future generations. Many believers point to specific events that seem eerily described in Nostradamus' quatrains: the rise of Napoleon, the world wars, and even the events of 9/11. For these readers, the accuracy of his verses over the centuries is too specific to dismiss as mere coincidence. They see Nostradamus not as an ordinary scholar, but as someone who glimpsed universal patterns that would unfold across time. For them, Nostradamus' prophecies are a timeless warning, a reminder to learn from history and to recognize the recurring themes of power, conflict, and resilience that define humanity's journey. On the other side, skeptics argue that Nostradamus' verses are so broad and symbolic that they can fit almost any major event. They believe Nostradamus deliberately used ambiguous language, allowing readers to interpret his words in ways that suit their own context. This retrofitting effect, where interpretations are shaped by hindsight, often means that we see connections in Nostradamus' quatrains only after the events have taken place. For skeptics, his prophecies are fascinating examples of literature, but they don't offer true predictive power. They view his work as a window into the fears and aspirations of his time, rather than a guide for ours. Ultimately, whether or not we choose to believe in Nostradamus' prophecies, his work challenges us to think critically and remain open to possibilities. His verses invite us to consider the nature of prediction, the impact of our beliefs, and the ways we interpret meaning in life's uncertainties. Nostradamus' legacy is more than just a set of predictions. It's a testament to our enduring curiosity about fate, destiny, and the mysteries of the future. Whether seen as prophecy or poetry, Nostradamus' work continues to inspire, question, and intrigue us, urging us to seek understanding in an ever-evolving world. The question of Nostradamus' prophetic abilities often brings us to an important intersection: the balance between science and spirituality. How can we interpret Nostradamus' prophecies in a world where scientific reasoning and spiritual belief are often seen as opposites? This blend of perspectives, scientific skepticism and spiritual openness, reveals much about our enduring fascination with Nostradamus and the mysteries he left behind. From a scientific perspective, Nostradamus' work is seen as an example of pattern recognition, a natural human tendency to seek out order in randomness. Psychologists explain that our minds are wired to make connections and create narratives, especially when faced with ambiguous information. This cognitive bias, called apophenia, means we often see patterns in unrelated data, attributing them to significance even when none exists. For scientists and skeptics, Nostradamus' quatrains are a fascinating look at how people interpret meaning in his words, finding connections to events like wars or natural disasters through hindsight and interpretation rather than actual prediction. Spirituality, however, invites us to consider that there may be forces beyond human comprehension. Many people believe that Nostradamus tapped into a divine or mystical source, accessing knowledge not available through ordinary means. This view suggests that prophecy transcends scientific explanation, and that Nostradamus was a rare individual who could access glimpses of the divine plan. For those with spiritual beliefs, Nostradamus' cryptic verses are more than words. They are insights from a visionary who understood that human fate might be influenced by forces beyond the material world. Interestingly, some argue that science and spirituality may not be as incompatible as they appear. Quantum physics, for instance, has introduced ideas that challenge our understanding of time, space, and reality. The concept of parallel universes or the potential for consciousness to impact reality are examples that encourage us to question the limits of what we know. In this light, Nostradamus' work can be seen as a bridge, a mysterious blend of scientific observation, historical knowledge, and perhaps even spiritual intuition. His understanding of astrology and the as above, so below principle suggests a worldview where science and spirituality are two sides of the same coin. Ultimately, whether one interprets Nostradamus' prophecies through the lens of science, spirituality, or a blend of both, his work reminds us of our shared quest to understand the unknown. His verses invite each of us to ponder what lies beyond the reach of science and within the realm of the spiritual, encouraging us to explore the boundaries of knowledge, belief, and our place in the universe. Nostradamus' predictions have left a powerful legacy, influencing how people interpret historical cycles, grapple with future uncertainties, and seek answers in times of crisis. But what exactly do his cryptic verses mean for us today, centuries after they were written? In times of global turmoil, wars, economic instability, natural disasters, people often revisit Nostradamus' quatrains, hoping to find meaning in his mysterious verses. His prophecies have become touchstones for those who feel that present-day crises may be part of larger patterns. This perspective offers comfort, suggesting that events today are not random, but part of a cycle of history that may have been foreseen. Nostradamus' predictions remind us that even in turbulent times, humanity has faced similar challenges and survived, giving a sense of continuity and resilience. In popular culture, Nostradamus remains an iconic figure. His image as a mystic and seer has inspired countless books, movies, and documentaries, cementing his role as the quintessential prophet in Western imagination. Writers and filmmakers use his legacy to explore themes of fate, foreknowledge, and the ethical dilemmas that arise from knowing the future. Whether his quatrains are referenced in literature or reimagined in science fiction, Nostradamus' work has contributed to discussions about predictive power, artificial intelligence, and humanity's constant quest to foresee what lies ahead. Nostradamus' prophecies also bring up questions about the power of belief and its influence on human behavior. Some scholars argue that Nostradamus' predictions may have even influenced political or military decisions. Leaders who believed in his visions may have made choices to either prevent or fulfill his prophecies, a phenomenon known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. In this way, Nostradamus' work serves as a reminder that our beliefs about the future can shape our actions today, influencing outcomes in ways we may not fully understand. For the modern world, Nostradamus' legacy is a testament to humanity's timeless curiosity and our deep-seated need to find meaning in an unpredictable world. Whether his prophecies are interpreted as divine insight, brilliant observation, or literary allegory, they continue to challenge us to reflect on our beliefs and to explore the mysteries of fate, choice, and our shared future. In the end, Nostradamus' work reminds us that while the future may be uncertain, it is shaped not only by destiny but by the actions we take in the present. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.